The best podcast in the world.
We gotta hit him with a. We got some explosive news. Not ain't explosive, but we got some news. Fortunately,
for diehard Cowboys fans, you could look at it as explosive, especially the way that this defense, any start to improvement, real improvement with this defense, it's explosive, Sky. So the best podcast in the world. We're gonna bring it on a Thursday. Thank you guys for joining us. Law will be with us shortly. This is episode 85 of the Cowboys Collective. Got a lot to talk to you guys about. We'll talk about the press conference, some of the things that Jerry hit on, and we'll talk about some breaking news. Sky and John, the Cowboys have requested some interviews. So, you know what? We won't waste time because I think that we all have kind of a lot to say. Well, there is no real rundown. I didn't text the guys a rundown. What we're going to do is just talk through some of this stuff. So, John, as always, what are you hearing boots on the ground? What's going on with some of these coordinator names? What's going on?
Yeah, I'd say out of the ones that have come out today, Jim Leonard would probably be the one that's the most notable in terms of the guys the Cowboys have requested permission to speak with. I don't know very much about Durante Jones and Ephraim Banda.
I don't know about him.
I'd be very surprised if it was either of them. I'd kind of be surprised if it was Jim Leonard too, but it could be. And then there was also that they tried to request, Todd Archer from ESPN reported that they were denied a request to talk to Jeff Ulbrich. They were denied by the Atlanta Falcons. He was their DC this year. So that doesn't mean that they can't talk to him later. But I just, that news comes out right now. And I know people think like, oh, so these are going to be the guys. Like, no, it's not. There's going to be way more guys interviewed than that. I mean, there's still guys that are coached this weekend that there's a chance could get fired or lose guys off their staff that can become available. It'd be foolish to even think that you're willing it down right now. You know, you'd want to wait, let some more pieces fall into place. Plus there's other guys that you could be interested in that are up for head coaching jobs. Like Raheem Morris is interviewing for head coaching jobs. Jim Schwartz interviewed today for the Cleveland Browns head coaching job. Like, you don't want to just sit there and pick from what's just available to you. You don't, the worst thing you could do is just force it right now, just to get somebody, just to get it in. You gotta, I don't know, man. You got to put in some due diligence here. Even if you do have a great example or great thought on who it could be, bring in all these guys. Absolutely.
I'd argue this is due diligence because these are names, like you said, you don't even believe they'll hire these names, and that very well may be true. But I wouldn't even have thought 5 years ago, 3 years ago, they would even interview all of these guys because they're not former head coaches. And I don't think any of them have called a defense in the NFL except for Ulbrich. And I know Leonard has in college. So I think this is actually a really positive sign to them truly sticking to casting a wide net on this search, because you're not bringing in Leslie Frazier. You're not bringing in Marvin Lewis, Rex Ryan, Mike Zimmer. Like, these aren't the names. Now, that very well may be.
Pete Carroll.
Right? Pete Carroll. Like, eventually you will get to the Raheem Morrises. You'll probably get to the Schwartz if he's available. Maybe Flores was a head coach, but you'll get to those. But the fact that they're starting off with, I think it's 4 names, and none of them have called defenses in the league yet, I think, and they come from good pedigrees, that is a very, very except for Ulbrich, very, very positive sign for this search. I'm excited for it.
Let me ask you guys this. We heard the Joneses talk the other day, and then so we'll get back to the defense.
Brother, this guy stinks.
we let's just say that was interesting, John. One of the more interesting press conferences.
To think that Trump Venezuela joke is going to hit is just so ridiculous to me. Like, what? That, you know what that is? That's your everyday audience probably laughs at that, but like on the outside, there's not really that many people that are like, that's hilarious.
John, read the room.
You know who laughs at that? That's a billionaire dinner party joke.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Millionaire dinner party joke.
Just because you can't do that, bro. Like, you got to relax, bro. You have a big Hispanic following. Not cool. Like, I don't like. It was just, that was lame. But yeah, like Toxic said, out of touch, John. And I wasn't even gonna bring that part up, but it's like, you can't.
I don't know how you can talk about that. 100 and, well, now what was it? 66 minutes on the podium, and then Jerry talked for another 9 after it. I don't think you can talk about any of that without mentioning that comment, because it was just so bizarre to me. Like that was the way that you're going to make the joke that you're the one picking the DC. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like there's things that I get it that you can't help yourself from making a joke about, but there are some things where you're just like, I don't know, man. Like those jokes are fine, I guess, if you're rolling off of like another double-digit win season where he went deep in the playoffs. But like, I don't know, man. Like these last 2 years, I just don't think that like a lot of people that follow the team are really looking for jokes. They want to know that what's calling the shots is very serious and locked in, and is going to do everything possible. And I don't think you really want to hear jokes. So that's just me, though. I don't know.
I thought him getting up there and almost basically starting off that presser with, yeah, Shoddy had a huge say in bringing in Matt Eberflus. It wasn't just me. It's like, are we really? We're going to run Shoddy over the bus here. This was clearly you. You, and that's okay. Just come out and say, hey, man, yeah, this is what we decided to do. This is how we have been operating over the previous number of years. I've normally have hired a certain coordinator prior to the head coach, and it didn't work out. But to kind of throw, and then Shoddy, of course, took it, which he's going to do that. He's never going to go against the grain publicly in that sense. And what is he going to do? His boss is up there.
Yeah,
right
nor should you if you want to keep that job.
Exactly. But it's just like, damn, bro. Like you're just going to throw your head coach under the bus right there. But fortunately for Shoddy, seems like a guy that can kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. What were some of your takeaways still from the press conference, football wise?
Boy, it was rough. You had to really punch through a lot of non-football stuff. Like Jerry loves to stand in the olden days. I mean, I wrote this down because I had to take a shot for every time he brought something up that's old. Boone Pickens. We got a Boone Pickens reference. We got Barry Switzer reference, another Herschel Walker reference.
Barry Switzer was crazy.
And then he talked about how, we're doing things the exact same way from the time I first stepped in this building. And it's like, there it is, Jerry. That's why shit changed, because he's talking about doing the same thing. But I tried to listen to more of Shoddy. I wish, really, honestly, this was McClay and Shoddy and not necessarily Jerry and Steven. But a couple of things I had wrote down that stuck out. They're now, and this did come from Jerry, the whole he's not going to ignore the character concerns anymore. He kind of touched on, I usually give guys second chances, and now because of money being allocated, that's what he's using.
Yeah, that's the only reason I push back a little bit when you say that you shouldn't have them up there. Because if you know what to sift through, there's plenty of stuff to get from them. Like I know you got to dig through like a lot of stuff, but there's way more you would have got from them than Clayton Adams. Because Clayton Adams is going to go up there and he's not going to want to say anything that's too crazy because he's not in a position to really do that either.
Not Jerry, Clayton Adams. Will McClay.
Oh, you said McClay. I got you.
Yeah. My bad. McClay. I'd rather McClay and Shoddy.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that too. But Jerry or Steven, one of them have to be up there. I mean, you have to have somebody that's an owner or the general manager, because whether you like it or not, they are the ones that are making the decisions in the end. So even if you think their decision making is foolish, you still got to hear where it's coming from.
I mean, that's fair. And in your line of work, they're definitely going to give you a lot. But
it's all of our lines of work. They give us way more to provide for these type of shows like this, or for writing than most teams do. I mean, I'm friends with, I'm not going to say a writer on every single team, but I'd say over half the league. And there are a lot of things that you're just kind of thinking that you know what you're talking about. Whereas with the Cowboys, there's so much stuff that we know. But I mean, I'll give you a great example. We walk off and then Jerry's going on and on about Jordan Lewis and how that was a mistake and they shouldn't. I get it. They make a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. How many other people are confessing to that? And I know there's not a lot, because how many times have you seen that same clip over and over and over again of John Mara saying to Joe Shane, like, man, I don't know if you get rid of Saquon Barkley, like, like we see it over and over again. Why? Because that's the fact that you don't really see that from those guys. I don't know. What's the best take you've heard from anybody in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization? Like, you don't really hear any of that stuff. And you have to like, you can act like, because you got to read in between the lines stuff, but there are things that they say that, I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's things that they say that I'm like, I don't know why you're saying that. It makes you look bad, but they do give stuff where you're like, I don't know, like, that's also why we always joke around, myself and other writers that I won't talk about because they might not want their name included in this, but that's why we always laugh about all the national shows. We always joke about how it's like, everybody knows the Cowboys, everyone's an expert on the Cowboys because they put so much out there. So it's no easy to talk about it. And there's a lot of those guys on those shows and gals, I guess you could say too, that probably couldn't even name a backup on the Cowboys. But man, that topic comes up. Oh, I know everything about the Cowboys. I heard Jerry said this and Jerry said that. So, and
it's all sugar.
Lies
No
why
substance.
they're the most valuable franchise.
I usually, and people can attest to this. That's why I'm not. It's not disrespectful. I'm just saying how I move with my. I don't care for the sugar. I want the substance. And Jerry is like 95% substance, 5% sugar, and usually he's passing off. I'm sorry, 95% sugar, 5% substance, and he's usually trying to pass off the substance to somebody else. So I get more from Shotty, and I would probably get more from McClay if they allowed him to do that than I get from Steven and Jerry, because they say the same thing every year, just differently. We had All In 2 years ago. Now it's Budget Buster. I mean, this is nothing. This is nothing. I'm not getting me personally. I'm getting nothing that I can take and be like, all right, this is what the Cowboys want to do, how they do it, yada yada, and I can project. I can project because they do the same damn thing all the time for I don't know how many years. Whereas Shotty, I got more in him talking about what he wants from the next defensive coordinator. That was huge to me because it was the exact opposite of what happened with Eberflus, a guy that can communicate, that can teach, that's multiple, that's going to fit his players to the scheme. That to me was more than Boone Pickens and Barry Switzer and Herschel Walker. And
no, I get that, but there's other things that are in there than
like
more. I thought Steven talking about how I thought it was a very good point how he brought up how just now, and it's not just them, it's going to be this way across the league. There's going to be a lot more of a focus on those Power 4 conferences because they're letting college football weed out the guys that you're going to be the ones that find Savone Ravel on East Carolina because he isn't going to stay at East Carolina for multiple years. You're going to be the ones that are going to move Tyler Smith over to Alabama because he's not going to stay at Tulsa and stuff like that. So I'm just saying that, yeah, you do have to deal with a lot of it because I can tell you this right now. As sick of you, if anybody else is, you guys have not heard these stories a million times like we have. We sit there and text each other in the middle, like, here
John
it comes.
said do it a lot. I give you that, John.
You know, break up the wagons and float the Mississippi because you know we've heard it.
You probably know more about the Mississippi than anybody, huh, John?
I've heard a lot about. I know a lot about the Astrodome and Jerry going there, but I'm just saying there are some nuggets in there that when you hear it and that where you're like, okay, I get where they're coming from in this. I don't know that this is the best way, but. If you can sift through it, I always come out of those things with like, okay, that one thing's interesting. That's interesting. Now I will say, if you did a tally board for what ended up being an hour and 15 minutes for what you got from that is very little. But I'm just saying, knowing people that cover these other teams and they never talk to anybody in their front office. I'm just saying I would prefer that we do have things like this as opposed to, and the other thing is too, I think a lot of people are beaten down with is the fact that Jerry does go on the radio twice a week too during the season. It's not just an end of season thing. It isn't just hey, I'm gonna do radio like once a month or something. It's twice a week. And then sometimes after games and that, so you get so much of the same stuff. But in terms of the end of season one, I was glad that they did that.
Well, I mean, again, like I said, they give us work in the sense of here, whatever. But let me go back to your Power 5 thing. This is why I wish McClay was there, which is a surprise it wasn't, honestly, because he's there after the draft and whatnot. And
he'll be there for the pre-draft one. They normally don't do the thing that they did yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
They usually do just the head coach. The reason they did it is because some writers complain that other teams do their coach or do the owner or general manager, I should say. One of them are made available at the end of the season. And for several years, the Cowboys have couched it as, well, Jerry talks after a lot of these games. And so after the final game of the season, we would get Jerry outside the locker room and they would count that as like, well, no other team is doing that. So that's count. So he'll stay here for an extra 20 minutes, ask any big picture questions you want and stuff like that. But this year they were like, no, we'll do it. We'll do it by the book. We'll give you guys the owner, general manager, and the head coach at the end of the season. I was like, great. And I also love that they took care of the Eberflus business before. Because if you go back to Mike Nolan, they actually didn't get rid of Mike Nolan until Friday after the Sunday game. And so they could have done that with the Eberflus too. It's not like they were going to have a new DC by then. So I'm glad they moved on it because at least you could get out there and ask them, you know, like you said, Sky, about, you know, Shotty. I mean, right off the bat, when I asked him, what are you looking for? Made it very clear, a teacher. And you can take it however you want. You said a great teacher.
You got that question out of him. Not to cut you off, John. That was excellent. That was a great question.
No, I appreciate it. No, but I was just going to say that I kind of took it as, okay, so does that mean that Eberflus wasn't? Just because we have talked on the show about how we questioned if that was the case. But for him to say that first thing, I thought that was interesting.
That communication, energy, like everything he said was almost the exact opposite. of what Flus. And then again, this to me is the reason why you can't lie to me, Jerry. There's no way. There's not a chance in hell to me that Flus sat down with Shotty and Shotty was like, that's the vibe I want. It's not. It's just not. So don't gotta lie to me. But to go back to the Power 5 thing, and this is again why I was thinking of McClay to be up there. He actually said this a while ago that he does not like to draft outside the Power 5, and they kind of were not doing it as much. And for whatever reason, they went back. I want to say it was around the Jalen Tolbert, I think, time frame. They start taking them a little earlier. And I would have loved to ask him like what changed, because I remember we were drafting those Matt Johnson and who was it? The kid from Georgia Southern, running back turned safety, JJ Wilcox. We were drafted BW Webb. We were drafting him high, bro, like fourth and up. And then I think he had mentioned, yeah, I'm a big Power 5 guy. And then it kind of switched. So I would have loved to know like what changed, and is it because of what he said about the NILs and things like that? But either way, there was still power guys and Power 5s back in that time too.
One of the things I took away, guys, was Steven talking about he was not pleased with the secondary. The first thing, I forgot who asked that question, John, but you know, when Steven did jump in and talk, he just said, you know, certainly the secondary, you know, it just didn't play the way that we wanted to play. And he did mention, like, everybody that they mentioned by name, I'm like, okay, they're good. Everybody that they didn't is like, I don't know. And so I know, like, he did mention they do believe a lot in obviously Overshown. Obviously we know what they think about Quentin Williams.
I don't know how you can watch and listen to all that and think Kenny Clark is going anywhere.
Oh, that's another one. I think what he said about Kenny Clark, he's in. And me and Sky were talking about this earlier. This is going to tie into our let me just switch us over real quick. Sorry, guys. This is going to tie into our sorry, y'all. There we go.
Hey, Skywalker
Steele. You remember?
You want to stay? You want to stay still for this?
I gotta John. My voice is a little deep.
Let's have fun. Let's have a little fun. This is our last two weeks. So and let me, I gotta get my hat on. Let me put my John Bones on. So as we talk about that,
let
me go get my blazer real quick.
John, was that a good one, John?
Get my do-rag and my glasses. You know?
John, I swear I'm just trolling, bro.
Oh, I don't care.
Put us back,
people get in the comments.
Put us back, man.
Sure, he's a no, but in all seriousness, the fact that he did. Hold on, get your do-rag. Get your do-rag, though.
I need the do-rag.
I wonder if John has a Foots impersonation.
He's silly, man.
No.
Listen to me.
I don't.
But in all seriousness, though, the secondary. I took that was my biggest thing, and that's the draft guy in me. That's the me and Law Steele talked about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this for the team building talks, but when Steven said that made my ears perk up. Law will still.
One more that I was like, okay, let's see if you go with what you just said here, where they kind of said there's not a prerequisite of having to be a head coach to be the DC. And the reason why I said, all right, is because if I'm not mistaken, because John's in all the meeting or all those interviews, I could have swore when they were looking for the head coach after Garrett, they kind of came out and said, yeah, we were looking for a head coach with experience. So all right, you came out and said the opposite in regards to DC, and your track record had been having a head coach as your defense coordinator. So again, they're casting that net with these non-head coach guys so far. Doesn't mean they're going to settle on these guys, but that's why that's kind of encouraging. Now, hopefully, it's not just talk, right? It's just like, oh, see what I said, and look what we're doing, and then they go hire Leslie Frazier.
Hey, okay. Law Walker, before you go, Sky. I'm
done.
No, I want to ask you something. Did the way Jerry said really make you feel like this is, because he said no, and remember that everybody was like, dang, that's the shortest answer you've ever gave. He was like, who? Somebody asked, is it? I think it was John, did you ask that question about the former head coach? Did. So Archer asked that still, and he was like, no, and like left it.
And if it happens, I said this to you already, I think that's a direct shot with a shotty. I think that's shotty. I just feel like he would have such a big influence on bringing in a non-former head coach or non-former defensive coordinator, because I just feel like the Joneses will feel really comfortable with a former head coach or defensive coordinator because it's just what they've done. And look, there's nothing wrong with that too, by the way. Like, there are qualified former head coaches that can coach up defense. That's right.
Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. To be honest with you, if you told me I had to pick one or the other for all 32 teams, I would lean towards about 25 of them. I would have a former head coach there if I can get him, especially stepping
or
in
DC,
especially stepping into the mess that they're going to be stepping in here with Shoddy entering his second year, having to deal with. There's going to be several guys there that are going to really be on the defensive side of the ball. Like, all right, what's this guy all about? Because I know the last guy wasn't it. So it's like, you really got to hit on this. You got to hit on somebody that not only is a teacher, but you got to hit on someone that the players will buy into too. So
facts.
You got to hit into on somebody that it sounds so ridiculous to say this, but like, allow them to go and do their own thing and be confident that they're doing their own thing correctly. Not, well, let me crack open the door, make sure. All right. That sounds good. I'll be back in a little bit. I got some more stuff to do. You can't be doing that stuff again.
No, you cannot. But what I don't want to happen, and I think Foots has mentioned this a bunch, I don't want this team to feel like, all right, here's the offense here, here's the defense here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I need coach defense and coach offense in each other's meeting rooms, but I need them to be on one accord, right? Like
synergy.
I need to be simpatico, man. The reason why we doing this is because we want to play an aggressive hero. That's all I'm saying. I don't need you to be in each other's meetings, but I don't want it to be two separate teams, because then you create a divide. I'm playing for coach, I'm playing. Nah, man, we playing for each other.
Yeah. I like that.
What did you take from the press conference?
Oh man, outside of Wagon Masters and that Bear Switzer story was crazy, man, and Herschel Walker and all
Boone
of that
Pickens,
stuff.
Lord, that was
Boone Pickens. Wow,
I have no idea who Boone Pickens is. That's crazy.
He brought him up before.
Yeah. He was big time on trying to help people from the Mississippi. Boone Pickens had a whole scholarship and everything. So
okay.
Billionaire guy. But what I can say is that what I took mainly from the interview is that Jerry Jones is insane. I think that he's not really understanding that. He said he want to end with more Super Bowls than any owner, and he didn't read the room. Like, Bob Kraft is just phenomenal, man, because he had 6 of them. You got long ways to go. And if you want to do that, you're going to have to follow the leader, meaning that you're going to have to do the things that what takes you there. And that's stepping back, because that's what Bob Kraft, he don't really have his hands all into the mix. So if Jerry Jones, if you really want what you desire, all you have to do is just step back and let someone else get in.
All right, I'll tell you why that was all BS. Been around 15 years. I missed it. Did they just have the last Super Bowl? Did the Patriots and Bob Kraft just win it? Did they win the one before that or the one before that?
No, been a minute. Yeah.
Never heard you mention it ever before, Jerry. So clearly that was like a new, like, hey, I'm going to say that. This will be funny thing. He's never said that before once.
Yeah.
And if he would have said, it's the one thing that, like, okay, so like in our business, like after something like that, okay, it's over an hour long, you're not going to, there's so many different things to hit on that you like. The first thing you got to go to is something that's like, okay, what's going to grab the most headline type thing. And then after that, then you kind of go into more of like a bigger picture thing. So my mindset on it was, after he said that, I got to put a headline on that, because that's the most noteworthy thing that will stand out from that beyond local. You know what I'm saying? I don't work for the Dallas Morning News, working for The Athletic, Todd Archer working for ESPN. You got to have something that they're going to be putting this on the front of their website. So you got to take being Cowboy fan out of it, thinking of all the other fans looking at it and being like, listen, all right, I'll click on this bullshit. What did he say? You know what I'm saying? So you have to factor that in. Where I'm sitting
He's been around us too long, Sky. He been around.
What was the first question I asked?
He's right. That's why I said what I said earlier. He's right.
So my first question was asking Brian about what he wants in a DC. I knew from that I was like, there's going to be too much meat on the bone through this entire thing talking about that's going to be 1,000 words to 1,500 words. There's no way I want that to be the quick hitting thing I put up right away. I'll do that later and put that up the next morning. You know what I'm saying? So you're constantly like thinking of that, why this stories of breaking down wagons and floating the Mississippi are going on. You're trying to focus in on like, okay, I don't need that. I'm going to use this. And then obviously anytime Jerry says that they might be going a different path in terms of free agency or the offseason, you have to touch on that, because people have been asking that forever. So I wanted to weave that in there as well. But when he said that thing, I immediately, I was like, that's BS. He's saying that right now because it's like, everybody knows you're not going to get 3 more Super Bowls in your lifetime. So obviously you're never retiring. But he repeated it again in that 9-minute walk-off after. So it was clearly one of these, this is going to be my talking point. I'm going to say this thing, but I want to go back to something that Foot said earlier about Steven talking about the DBs. So going to Jerry in the walk-off though, and you piece everything together, the Cliff's notes on this is they expected from Trayvon Diggs, Kyer Elam, Savon Ravel, Kalen Carson, and then whoever else that they could get 2 that would hold down the outside, and Bland would be the one that filled in and played more nickel, replacing the loss of Jordan Lewis. And because of the injuries, obviously, to Bland and to Diggs, obviously Kyer Elam was not very good at playing football. Facts. And then the fact that Bland didn't play well in the slot and not as well as they thought, that's what really had Jerry being like, yeah, we messed up on letting Jordan Lewis go. And I mean, I don't think they gave, Jordan got a good contract. I don't think it was, it was like 3 years, like $30 million, $10 million a year. Yeah. But my thing with Jordan Lewis though, and a lot of people that cover the team have said this in the last 24 hours, it's like, it's bigger than that too, because he also would have been a great guy for the communication on the field. And he's a great guy behind the scenes too. So it's like, and they do have a lot of those on defense. Don't get me wrong. Like a lot of those guys, like that's not lip service. A lot of the guys that Shoddy talked about, like when he ran down, like he straight up said numbers of leaders. He goes, when I had my exit interviews and I'm asking guys like, who's the leader, stuff like that. He ripped off, he said Dak's number. He said Quinton Williams. He said Kenny Clark. He said Osa. He said DeMarvion Overshown. He's not sugarcoating and going 88, 3, just naming all of his best players. He named the guys that from what I see behind the scenes, those look like a lot of the guys that do that stuff as well. But anyway, what I was getting at though, Jordan Lewis was absolutely one of those guys too. That was a bigger loss than and I completely agree with Jerry, that was a bigger loss than he thought, and probably a lot of other people thought it would be.
Which is a testament to your personnel evaluation. How could you not see that? How could you not see that as a big loss? But either way, one more. I know Foot said it. We don't really have much of a rundown. We're kind of all over the place here because to be honest with you, the press conference was all over the place. But George Pickens got brought up, and there was something interesting there. It really doesn't have much to do with Pickens, but it does at the same time. So allow me to try to get through this mess here. So they asked him about George Pickens and correct me
several times.
Several times. John, please correct me because there was a lot Pickens talk.
Oh, I had my phone right in my phone. I had it typed in. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones -- George Pickens ready for whatever he was going to say about him, and he gave me a big old nothing.
Excuse me. I think it was Steven or Jared. I think this part was Steven, where they asked him about the monies and stuff like that, and they kind of asked him, "Hey, were your intentions to get the compensatory pick, like a one-off, essentially? If you didn't sign Micah, then you would sign him, or that whole thing, right?" But what stuck to me, and we could talk about the money and all that stuff. What stuck to me was that he was very adamant that, well, if we didn't sign him, we were hoping to get the 3rd round compensatory pick, because that's what a lot of the teams do around the league. We aren't the only ones. And in my head, this goes back to what Law said about, you got to do things that the championship teams are doing. In my head, why are you bragging that other teams do that when you kind of put down when other teams are super aggressive and go for the gusto? And that's really what you should be saying we should be mimicking, not talking about a pick that you could get 2 years down the line, because you essentially, let's just keep it a buck, you're essentially not trying to get ahead of it for a guy that you consider questionable, right, in regards to character, because that's why you think it's questionable with the character. In my opinion, it's not the talent. So I that stuck out to me, because it's like, if you're going to be braggadocious about, hey man, we ain't the only ones that do this, other teams do this, well, why not copy other teams when they do not conservative things? That's a conservative move. Let's be real. Copy the aggressive part of it. So I'm like, if anybody wants to, pick and prod at Steven later on, if they try to say, well, the Rams did this or the Eagles did this, and look at them and look at that, say, no, you just talked about other teams do this conservative move. Why can't you copy these aggressive ones? Steven Jones, go. That's what I would say.
So my takeaway on all of that, what you said, plus the entire press conference, factoring other things in, let me just say on George Pickens' questions, like I said, multiple times, some at the beginning, middle, end, asked in all different ways, never really gave anything. So I'm going to tell you exactly why that was. that is them knowing season's over. We're in full contract mode right now. We're not saying, we're not giving anything. And I'll tell you exactly why I know that's what was going on. What was the answer when they asked about Javonte Williams? Want him multi-year deal. Didn't hesitate.
He locked that in.
Even offered up Clowney. Wasn't even asked about Clowney. He was asked about the draft with the areas that they need to go to. And he said secondary linebacker. He said at the end, and we certainly want to bring back J. Devy and Clowney. Jerry, and the walk-off after about Kenny Clark. Didn't seem like there'd be any problem about getting something worked out to make sure that Kenny Clark's still there. But when it got to Pickens, it was like they know exactly. It's not just George, obviously coming off of a monster year, but they know they're dealing with Dave Mulligetta. And that's why, honestly, they could have sat up there and said, because this is what I say all the time, because I believe it. George Pickens will be wearing number 3 for the Dallas Cowboys next year. It'll either be on a long-term deal or on a franchise tag. They could have easily said that. They did not want to say it. Yeah.
That's an excellent observation, John. They are starting the media negotiations immediately. Now. They ain't waiting. That's a hell of an observation. Yeah.
John brought his fastball today. Guys, in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about some of this news of the defensive coordinators. And honestly, John, something that you just said about Kenny Clark. Yeah, we rolling, y'all. I think we're all excited about the names and stuff. I'm going to say this, though. What you just said about Kenny Clark, John, I really want to talk about that because I do think we'll talk about it. Let's just get to this read and then we'll talk about it because this is going to be interesting for sure. Let's get to the Sleeper HMA.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Call your shot on Sleeper. Use code HMA if you're watching the bowl game. I'm kind of peeking over, looking at a few players I like, all that type of stuff. Watching Ruben Bain. If you're watching the playoffs this weekend, Sleeper. All we ask, y'all. Practice. Just type in HMA for us. It makes the show look good. It makes the people behind the scenes.
I want to bring them back.
Doing our job.
Yeah, come on with it, man.
And then also, you guys, you know what I did the other day, y'all? I went on my jog.
You're trying to get that Pickens contract too, by the way. Come on with it.
I was listening on Spotify. Make sure you guys leave us a 5-star review wherever you guys listen to a podcast. This show has become a way of life for you all. I can tell, and I love it. You guys are finding storylines. Okay. So you said something about Kenny Clark, and I was very excited to know. I tweeted that out that it sounds like Kenny Clark will be back. Let me ask you guys this. When Shotty said, no, I'm going to tie something that Sky said, well, that we all kind of watched. When he said he wanted a defensive coordinator to be multiple, what did you guys take from that? Because what I'm thinking, John, this defensive coordinator better know how to use all 3 of these D tackles. Especially if you're bringing back defensive. If you're bringing back Kenny Clark, all 3 of these guys need to play in some sort of way, some sort of scheme, and it better make sense. What did you guys take?
I kind of took the San Francisco 49ers approach from it that, you're going to lose sometimes Fred Warner. You're going to lose sometimes Nick Bosa, and it can't be, oh, man. Well, guess the season's over, guys. We lost our guys. No, it's like you adapt to what you do have there. And I don't feel like they felt that with the previous defensive coordinator. And so I think that that's a big part of it, that they want to make sure that they have somebody who can be multiple, but then most importantly, explain their different things from week to week to the players and that they can understand it. And then they can take it to the field on Sunday. And it's not a thing where we're 15 weeks into the season, you're still seeing guys on the back end arguing right when the ball's getting snapped about where they're supposed to be and things like that everyone's on the same page. And also with that, Jerry, basically jumped in after Schottenheimer said what he was looking for in DC, and he goes, I'm looking for this guy right here. I'm looking for another guy like Brian, with the energy, the enthusiasm, that type of thing like that, and that's why there is part of me that wonders, going back to, I did mention this earlier, we were talking about it briefly, Law, but Sky brought up about that Matt Eberflus was never like that. And I was kind of thinking back to what you were saying the other day about, being at that bowling alley and stuff like that. I'm telling you, man, I think he might have sold them on that he was going to be like that. And then the more he was around the rest of the staff, the more it made Eberflus be like, I'm not doing all that stuff. That's not going to be how I am. I got too many skins on the wall. I'm doing it my way. I'm not doing all that stuff. I'll be bad cop if I have to be bad cop. You guys want me to put out Logan Wilson? I'm going to leave Kenneth Murray out there for every snap. You know what I'm saying? And that's not good. And that's how you lose your job. But I'm saying that I could see him having sold to them like that. I'm all about that. I'll do all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I want to get back in coaching again. I want to focus on defense. I'm done with that head coaching stuff in Chicago. I just want to focus on this defense. I'll get it right, And so he might have sold them on something that wasn't really true. So when they're looking for this next DC, they better make sure that what they're hearing is what they're going to see week 1.
But you don't have to do all that to have energy. Like Rod Marinelli didn't do all that, but you was listening to Rod, and Rod, how many countless defensive linemen have retired or moved on, or even during a time in Dallas, John have said, man, I love Rod. Like the energy he brings, he's like my father figure. He gets the best out of me and things like that. Ain't nobody saying that about anywhere.
Yeah,
anywhere. You don't hear that anywhere about Matt Eberflus. So if you got swindled, somebody said in the chat, by that, boy, oh boy, that's a little scary.
Yes, indeed, very scary. So what I took from that, John Machota, Foots Machota.
You know what it probably was? Those guys. They probably went back to when you said people that go to bat for him. I know what's his name. Loved playing for him. Sean Lee.
Oh, Sean Lee.
And eventually they went back to like, we'll get that same type of thing. We'll let him get his linebackers in here. That's the one I keep going back to. There is no possible way anybody would have believed that the linebackers would have been that bad when that's like his position. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
I thought Sanborn was going to be much better than he was.
Yeah.
I thought
I'll take that.
Too.
I was never high on Murray in general. I didn't like his instincts, and I don't think you can coach that and fix that. That is what it is.
Not at that position.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
You about to say something, Law?
No, I was going to say what I took from it is that he just growing pains, and we felt every pain of it. So he don't want to see what he's seen this past season. So that's why he said that. That's why he said, I want somebody to be multiple. I want somebody that don't just play 95 to 70, 95 to 97%.
Right there,
so yeah. So that's
I think it was a direct shot at Flu's Foots. In that, I think he mentioned, again, paraphrasing because there's so much. That was such a long press conference. Right. He essentially said something along the lines of, we have to take what our players do best and fit it in. I think he said something like the structure of what we do. So essentially saying we're not trying to put square pegs in round holes, right? But we want to make sure that whatever our foundation is defensively, we find it within that structure and we say, okay, he does that part well. Let's make him do that, right? Because you do that well, as opposed to no. This is how we do it in general. You're doing it. I don't care if you can't do it well. You better do it well, or nothing happens, apparently, depending on if you're Matt Eberflus or you're Kenneth Murray. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to stick through it. Eventually, it'll happen. He's saying, nah, man. Like, we got this Maris Leofau cat. We got this Overshown cat. We got this Izaraku guy. Can you get the best out of these dudes in what we want to do? If not, I'm good. I'll go find somebody else.
Yeah, and to go back to that's a great point, Sky, and to go back to what John was just saying about, the Eberflus kind of being the bad cop, good cop. I think the problem is, I just feel like on defense is if once you lose guys, your defense is gonna take a step back. They're not gonna play hard. They're not gonna tackle well. They're gonna be soft. And we talked about this, guy. Defense is you gotta have these dudes wired different. I think on that side,
Black Air Forces, bro.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, like you can't have guys. If they're out there questioning you, they're already playing slow. Now, this is what I want to say. There's a candidate that I think we've all talked about in Jim Leonard. And to your point, Sky, you talked about the great John Owning D-line mastermind. He talked about a clinic, and he said that if you can't teach it to the players in the way that they understand it, then why are you doing it? Like, anybody could tell you what cover 2 is. How do you get said player to understand this is the third that I need you in, and this is why when you get 2-1? And maybe they don't understand because he brought up a certain technique of a back pedal. He was like, well, I had kids who didn't understand how to backpedal a certain way, so I had to teach it differently.
Right.
And I think that's what this team needs mixed with the energy. I don't think that Jim Leonard is going to be doing backflips and, jumping around. I don't even think that's his style, but he teaches in a way with such veracity and such energy. And that's what he always wants to do, that you feel that word. You feel that energy. That's all Shotty's asking, because I don't think, you said it earlier, John, you're not going to get much out of Clayton Adams, but you know that he's coaching. Like, you can coach.
Well, I didn't mean you get much out of him in a press conference setting, is what I meant.
Yeah,
like
but
if he was on the
dais,
but behind the scenes, I'm sure he's different than he is.
Air Force is crazy, Sky.
I mean, this is the truth though. But I love your thoughts on Jim Leonard. And I watched. We talked about 25 minutes or so of that clinic, and I wanted to get to know not get to know, but see the person of who he is. And then I watched some other videos of him coaching up, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to be really good for these young DBs if he's the guy. But
if he's the guy,
wherever he is, he's going to be good for the young DBs. Just go look in Denver, right?
I think Denver going to try to match him, huh? If Vance Joseph goes,
I think they're definitely going to try to. They made him the assistant head coach for a reason. Like, he's going to be a head coach.
He's an assistant already.
Yeah, and the thing about Jim Leonard is that he already ran a very successful defense in college in Wisconsin, where most people were looking at him as the best defensive mind in football at that time. And he runs a multiple type of defense at all three levels. It's very interesting because he'll do multiple things up front. He'll do He'll do multiple things with his secondary or his level 2 guys, and definitely in the secondary. And he played safety. And Foots had a great point about this privately, where he talked about there's something about safeties, right? Being coaches, because defensive coaches, because they have to see all three levels. They have to know all three levels, and their observations are a bit different than a defensive end. Defensive end don't know what the hell is going on back there, right? Where the safety literally has to communicate at all three levels. Right. And I just think he'd be such a fantastic hire. He comes from a good pedigree over there in Denver right now, and he ran a successful defense in college. He would know these college kids coming out. He'd be able to reach these young kids. And I think he garnered the respect of the veterans because he was a damn good safety himself. He wasn't a Pro Bowler, all pro, but I had to get it from the mud. I'm gonna be honest. When I heard Jim Leonard and I wanted to go look at him, I said, "Oh, was that Jim Leonard?" Yeah, from the Jets. I had no idea he was coaching. I knew of a Jim Leonard. I didn't know it was that Jim Leonard. I'm like, yeah, this guy's got next as a head coach. I don't know if he's gonna be good, but I think he's gonna be a head coach soon. So if you hire
the
him,
right line of thinking,
you got 2-3 years, Foots. If you hire him, you got 2-3 years.
That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for.
He's gone.
The next one.
That's all I'm asking for.
We'll be 3 Super Bowls in then, huh? We be trying to eclipse this thing that Jerry Jones said, Come on.
Let me ask you guys this. With let's talk timetables and timelines, John. With the head coach with so many vacancies, do you guys foresee this thing being dragged out still? Like, when was the last time you guys are better than this stuff with me? The last defensive coordinator they hired, I don't know if there was 8 vacancies at head coaching, but
I told you this privately. It's usually 6.5 to like 7 vacancies a year. So it's kind of on par. Sometimes even 8. It's not really out of the ordinary.
When do you foresee this happening, John?
I mean, not for another week at least. So
you think it could be? I was thinking 2 weeks.
It could be. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I would like to get this guy in quickly.
But honestly, I think the timeline right now shouldn't be the main focus. It should be them doing a thorough investigation for it. I don't want to rush it, even if it's a guy we love. Like, do a thorough investigation and due diligence on this. If it takes a week, takes 2 weeks, just make sure we've turned over every rock. That's how I look at it.
Hey, still, do you think they know who they?
A lot of trying to think how to put this. A lot of criticism goes towards Eberflus in the process of getting Eberflus and how, Shotty had nothing to do with that to a lot of people. He was just stuck with Eberflus, but everybody else he did a deep dive on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Sorensen do a good job this year?
No, he didn't. He needs to go too.
No, he didn't.
I was warning Sorensen before he got here. Yeah.
Hey, was it surprising y'all that they kind of Had
You
he
No, they
just-
made it sound like
They want
he's
the
certainly
bat
coming
for
back,
him.
and if he wasn't,
Yeah.
he'd probably be gone by now. So,
I was very like, are you kidding me?
I mean,
I
I'm
didn't-
not going to
I
sit there
didn't
and say
like
their
that.
special teams was as bad as their defense, but their special teams was not good.
Yeah,
But
they just
John,
have
for
key
special
pieces.
teams, it might have been.
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
we always started with bad field position, and it was quite literally because Kevontae Turpin either didn't know. Well, not it wasn't even always him. Like it was just, bro.
I don't
It
think
was
Turpin
crazy.
forgot how to return. I think Bones Fossil knew how to set things up, and also we had 34 special team penalties. Like that is insane.
So that's coaching to me. That's
Oh, yeah.
these guys aren't disciplined.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no way he's
Sorensen been having some bad special
that
team moments.
34 penalties is nuts, Sky. That's
Mhm.
crazy. That means you're always starting with bad fields.
Sorensen need to
Yeah.
give a third of his check to Dan. What we got? Brandon Aubrey.
Aubrey, yeah, and
yeah. I'm about
Anger.
to say Dan Bailey. Yeah,
Hey,
Anger
let me
and
ask y'all a
Aubrey
question.
saved him. Yeah.
We haven't had this conversation. He at the end of the season started to.
Nah,
I don't even want to talk about it.
I give him
let's
mulligan.
More
Hey,
misses than I
Mulligan.
thought that I'd ever see.
Yeah,
but
let's-
maybe it's
I give
'cause
him
it's so much
mulligans.
pressure on
You ain't wrong in thought.
You know
but,
what I mean? This guy,
because kickers, when they go, they go.
They do.
bro. Hello.
But he hasn't kicked for a long time. So holla at me like week 3. Let's
Week
see
three,
where
week
he's
three,
at
week
week
three.
It's
Isn't
not a
that
it's
is
not a
what
Greg
position, Sky,
Zerline
when,
thing,
like,
man.
When they do this, bro,
Bro,
it's
I
literally
watched
like the
Dan
craziest
Bailey
thing.
go from being one of the best, most accurate kickers to he couldn't make shit.
Yeah.
Mike Vanderjagt, I know he was a problem
Vanderjagt.
child, but Vanderjagt was one of the most accurate kickers. But when he lost it mentally, it was over.
Was that the guy we eventually got?
Yes.
Which one was it? Yeah,
I was
he
at
was
that
bad.
game.
Yeah.
where I
Oh
was
my
there.
god!
What about
No
what about
toxic.
Justin
I do not-
Tucker?
I love Aubrey. Don't do that.
So Tuck started fading too, but he was getting
know,
them
that's what I
massages.
brought him up.
So
Once he
you know,
started,
he
once he
was-
started
Tuck-
going
Something
there,
else going
he
on.
started getting that
Tuck
lemon
got out
long
of there.
time,
Tuck got
boy.
out of there for them numbers dropped though. He got
Hey, he got that long time. He started
Yeah,
getting a little
long
too much
time.
long
was getting
time,
everything else
bro.
massaged besides that foot. Yeah, man.
I remember I used to argue that Bailey was better than Tuck, and then it was like,
Oof.
okay, Tuck pull off, and then I was
Nah,
like,
Tuck was the
yeah, but Bailey was with him though. When
His accuracy barely couldn't kick
Yeah.
nothing beyond 55, but
Yeah.
Tuck was kicking them 55 plus is like
yeah,
nothing.
he was
Let
with
me
it.
let me ask y'all this.
Outside with it too.
And y'all don't have
Outside,
to
right?
give me a long.
Yeah.
Y'all don't gonna have to give me a long answer. Do you think right now they know who they want?
Yep.
DC, me
Yeah.
personally, I don't think so.
See, okay. Well, why you say
think- I
yes,
think they
Law?
do.
Why
I
you
think
say
they
yes?
do. I think that Schottenheimer, for what he said and listed out the things that he want, I think he got an ideal. And I'm trying to look at some of the past histories that they may have together. I think it could be Jim that gonna be the actual coach if he's not selected
away.
by
He wants
Denver.
to do it.
I'm talking about the guy we just talked about, not Schwartz, but Jim.
Well,
Lyle.
according
Yeah.
to him, and I'm not
Leonard.
disagreeing, but according to him, he said he hadn't kept in touch with Jim Leonard. So,
Oh,
You know what's crazy, Scott? I think he said
It
that
could be a
to throw us off.
misdirection.
I promise you, I
misdirect.
think he said that.
I don't know. I don't think Shotty lies much like that. Like in that,
Who asked that question still?
but he lied
I don't know
about
if that-
Flus.
But what I'm getting at is, so if he has not kept in touch with him in that sense of coaching, like, hey, how is this guy as a coach? He knows him as a player. Then he has to do his due diligence on Jim, just like he has to do his due diligence on others. So that's why. How can he know? He may know what he wants in a coach, Law. I don't know
Right.
how they know who he wants
Okay.
without doing a thorough
The
investigation.
personality part.
If they know
Yeah.
who they want, to me, Foots, it ain't Shotty that's making the decision then.
Well, here's what I know for sure. Jerry Jones gonna announce it during the Super Bowl week because he gonna give some of them headlines. So whatever the headlines align, we only got
long ass time to wait. But yeah,
That's February. You need to be
a
building.
month.
You need to start building your draft. I was gonna say, Scott.
right before the Super Bowl,
I was gonna
NFC
say
Championship. So.
we talked about this offline.
Yeah.
What I wonder if it's maybe they look at it and say, man, you know what? This guy did a great job against my offense, but I still want to make sure that he has the mentality to coach this group and coach in Dallas. Like the personality part, they don't want to just take that part for granted either, because that could be if Raheem Morris doesn't get the job, as much as we all love
Radio.
Jim Leonard, maybe Raheem Morris is better to coach in Dallas because he has, not because he's a head coach, but like it is different coaching in Dallas. Like it's just, can he handle that? You know what I mean? Can he handle, hey, everything is going to be on you if this doesn't work? Not everything, but you know. So maybe that's in my opinion, maybe they're thinking like, I think that they know. I think they know what they want. I think Shotty has said, I want it to look like this. Because we talked about that 2 shows ago, Sky. They have to get to a point for draft purposes, for if this person leave purposes, and Shotty's smart enough football wise to say, I want my corners to look like this, I want my safeties to look like this, I want a scheme like this, but maybe they don't know exactly who they want to run it.
Right.
Know what they want, but not who they want. I can get down with that.
Yeah. John,
I think they have multiple candidates that I don't think they're down to just one person. I mean, I still would keep Jonathan Gannon in there as well.
Okay.
I think he's still in the mix, and there could be also some people out there that are currently coaching that might surprise them if they're let go. So I think they have a good idea, but I don't think it's anywhere close to being like, all right, well, let's just go through the process. This is going to be our guy. Like it kind of felt like with Dan Quinn, I think I don't think it's like that here. I think it's a little bit more of they are casting the wider net, like they said.
I'll be honest, I'll say 2 hires. I won't even, Quinn is interesting because I don't remember the interview processes there. I think Joe Witt might have got one, but I don't remember like the extensive. But the Zimmer and then Flus hire, it definitely felt like, did you ask the question? Do you think you know who they want? That felt like they knew who they wanted. Like that just did. I know they brought in Rex Ryan, but come on, guys. And Rex even came out and was like, hey, man, I would have been the coach, but they ain't pony up the money. I can't see them picking you over Zim. Zim is family in Dallas. Are you kidding me? And then you go from one former defensive coach from the Cowboys to another former defensive coach. It just felt like they knew what they wanted, and they just had to kind of get the semantics out of the way. And but now I don't know who they want, and that's a good thing. I know what they want. I don't know who they want.
I will say more Easter eggs.
Here, I just looked it up. All right, here we go. January 8th, so that would have been the Friday after their last game that they lost in 2020. Mike Nolan was fired. Yep. How many days do you think it took before, or weeks, or however long, until they hired Dan Quinn? January 8th. January 8th is when they fired Mike Nolan.
I'm going to go 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
I don't think 2 weeks. 2 weeks
think
is
Super
long.
Bowl. I think around Super Bowl time. I don't know.
I say about 10 days.
3 days.
Oh, 3 days.
January 11th, he was hired.
That was a quick hire.
He was the guy all along, man.
Yeah.
So that goes back to my how do you think they know? So
see, that's what I'm saying, right? And what was the Joe Witt and what? Probably like 2 other random schmandom guys, right?
This internet's amazing. I'm going to tell you right now. It was. Hold on. So they fired him on a Friday. That following Monday is when they named him the head or the DC. What do we got here? Going.
And mind you, Dan got fired in the middle of the season too, so they could have been dirty macking a little bit, behind.
Dan did get fired in Atlanta in the middle of the season.
Yeah. And you knew you were moving on from Nolan before the season was over, like you do for Flus. The difference is McCarthy was never going to get the say because he had to say, and it was like, ain't work. This is different because
their last DC was also fired during the season too, so he was available.
See?
The Bears let him go on right after Thanksgiving. So.
Dirty
but,
man.
but the difference with the McCarthy, this is a different coach, right? Difference in 2020, where 21 you getting Dan Quinn, you knew the front office was making that decision and not Mike McCarthy because they already gave Mike McCarthy his leeway and he failed miserably. Now it's like, all right, Jerry, you admit it. You was wrong on your guy. Now, that's why they're asking you the question. Are you going to let Coach, Shotty pick his guy? And he's like, oh, Shotty has his hand. Shotty needs to have his hand, and it sounds like he's going to have his hand, a huge say in this guy. So give him a shot. And if it doesn't work, all right, at least it was the head coach making the decision on his guys he wants to coach with.
Shotty's a football guy. Let him make the decision. He's been around. He knows what it looks like. I want to just give y'all a quick Easter egg before John gives us his nugget. Durante Jones, pass game coordinator. Jim Leonard, assistant head coach. Pass game coordinator. Ephraim Banda, safeties coach. What do all 3 of those things have in common?
Oh, don't forget Ulbrich, though.
Ulbrich. They weren't able to get
Dikembe Mutombo, that one didn't rejection.
Yeah. They must really want to keep him. But I just think I do like that they're looking. Go ahead, Sky.
Arthur Blank came out and said he hopes that the next coach keeps Ober. He wants to keep Ober.
Yeah, I see. I did. Yeah, like to me, I just love the fact that they are looking at guys who have experience in the back. And now that doesn't have to be that's just a personal thing for me. I said that on our last show.
Mhm.
I want somebody who can get these guys communicating better and playing with better technique. Whatever it is, like I'll tell you right now.
Zimmer was pass game guy too.
Yeah, he knew, bro. I'll give y'all a perfect example. Riley Moss, 10,000 penalties, bro. He was playing press and he was playing it. He was like, yo, at the end of the day, and I don't know if like that may mean a couple pass interferences but those guys are being coached. Hey, we're gonna beat these receivers up at the line. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we have a way that we want to play football.
Well,
and we're gonna do that. Like we're gonna beat these guys up at the line. We're not gonna be passive. We're gonna play it a certain way.
One sword the lane, baby.
If you don't get the pass game guy per se, make sure you hire a guy that you trust that can execute that. I know Joe Witt right now is on the outs in Washington, but if you go look at Joe Witt's career as pass game coordinator, safeties coach, things like that from Packers and in Dallas, he's had immense success in that way. Al Harris, another. So make sure that you do get your position coaches correct, because we all know that according to many there, the position coaches just weren't it. They were doing all those dances and stuff, but they weren't it on that side of the ball under Eberflus.
So it was Dan Quinn, Joe Witt was interviewed.
Joe Witt.
And then Jason Simmons, he's the defensive pass game coordinator for Washington right now. But at the time, he was in Carolina. And now, obviously, with him being in Washington now, he's obviously got Dan Quinn connections. But he was an assistant on some of McCarthy's staffs in Green Bay. So, yeah, just those three. That was it.
If we were having a conversation on a Sunday Cowboys Collective show of, hey, here are the Cowboys 3 candidates they interviewed, no freaking brainer. You're going with Dan Quinn. That is crazy. So you're right. He was the guy. He was a guy based off of who they interviewed. And that goes.
Well, I knew just having to look it up that I was like, I know that there's not even anyone that was close, because I would have remembered it at the time. It was a foregone conclusion that it was like, oh, well, Dan Quinn got fired by the Falcons. He wants to keep coaching. That'd be a perfect fit,
I think it's opposite now, because there isn't a Dan Quinn right now, and they aren't interviewing just 3 people. They've already interviewed 3 or are requesting interview 3 and requested interview a 4th. So this is a good thing though, guys. I do want people to understand.
And they got to get their Rooney rule. So I think
let me just throw out something wild real quick here at the end. Just because I saw some national people talk about this. How would you guys feel if they moved down from Schottenheimer and hired John Harbaugh? The most surprising move ever. It's not going to happen, but I'm just saying, I saw some people talk about like, as soon as he came available, I was like, Cowboys. I'm like, that's not happening. But
no, I'm good.
How would you guys feel about that?
I'm good. I saw that too. And then I don't understand, why would he even want to do that? I feel like John would want to have a little bit more say than he would have here in Dallas. And Shoddy, I think Shoddy makes more sense right now, because your offense is your strength, and he's a good offensive coach. And no offense to John Harbaugh, he was a special teams guy.
So he fix your special teams law.
Yeah, he will fix it. Hey, if I'm Jerry Jones and I got all of these billions of dollars, I'll make an offer he can't refuse. I'm gonna like, you can't refuse this.
I think they're good where they're at, but I'm just saying, I do feel also that there's a decent chance he goes to the Giants, and that's probably not what he wants.
He's the most sought after head coach. Not even close.
No doubt. No doubt.
Small said I would rather Mike McDaniels. There was a time I definitely would have.
Oh, Mike is going to be.
I didn't like our offensive direction.
He needs to go run the Detroit Lions offense. Is what Mike needs to do.
I saw somebody say that would be sick.
I think I'm gonna tell y'all somewhere else. I'm gonna tell y'all somewhere else. I'm scared of Washington. If he gets with JD, that could be scary, bro. And he has ties to Washington. He was there before. He was with that staff when they were all there.
He's got ties with Dan Quinn too. Yeah.
Here's in Atlanta.
There you go. That's the one.
I would not move it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because being in DC, Baltimore area, there is real legs to him. And now Lamar's nothing like that, but him and Lamar were not seeing a lot.
Yeah, it eventually dwindled down. But I don't think
he's a very headstrong guy. Like that's what his.
But I don't think Dak would have a problem.
Lamar or John Harbaugh?
Harbaugh is very headstrong.
I would argue both, but okay.
Yeah, I would argue both as well.
Man.
I would too, Foots. I would too, Foots. You're right. So
I would. Yeah, I don't think.
I called John Foots. Y'all don't know if y'all got the joke.
Yeah, I think it's one of those cases where 18 years, and not the 18. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what it is, bro. And he went in there with Steve Bisciotti, and you said he's hard hit. He's an older guy, and Bisciotti probably like, hold on, wait, but
So
we doing the same thing. I bet. Cool.
So you know what, Sky? In Earth 12, probably it's Tomlin that get fired, right? So because it's a time lapse. So you're right. I didn't even think of it that way.
One of the oldest sayings, and we'll wrap here.
Yeah. Still might be.
If you're a great coach, you coach long enough, you're gonna get fired. Like it's just
Andy Reid.
You listen to any clinic, they're gonna tell you you're
Tom
gonna get
Landry.
Yeah, man, bro, I'm telling you, man. What a great show, guys.
Yeah, good stuff.
Enjoy the rest of this bowl game. I can't wait to listen back to this. We are moving to 1 day a week. That's
One
where
time.
we're going. 1 day a week.
Unless there's some breaking news about somebody getting hired on a Wednesday or Thursday.
Right.
Yeah, and the reason is, guys, we want to give you guys shows like this where we all have an opinion, we all have good energy. I know I'll get with Sky on some of the topics. We'll start integrating draft. I'll be bringing prospects. My top 50 is done. Y'all go retweet the top 50, man. I put in a lot of work on this joint, bro.
Shoot me that. I must have missed that.
I put it back in the chat, and then look, get John Machota to retweet all his 200 million followers. But in all seriousness, we'll start because
John's just gonna say NFL draft top 50. That's it.
Hey, look, John, I got a special graphic
views.
made. I got a Matt Owen, shout out to Matt Owen, a brother of ours, Law and Scott.
Yeah.
He
Shouts
got
out
a
to
graphic
Matt.
made,
Let's
man.
go.
But even me and Scott were talking about now. Once we get the DC, we can now start.
Yeah.
We're not just casting a wide net of what they're gonna do in the draft.
Narrow it down, man.
Now we can narrow it down. So
Narrow it down. We can narrow down free agency.
Yeah, we can narrow it down. But before we go, I got a good friend of mine, Lunda Wells, man. I think that if he ever get an opportunity to showcase his skill sets on calling plays, it would be a plus for the people to see. I don't want him to leave, though. I think Lunda Wells, I think the Cowboys should figure out ways to keep him. But shout out to him if he ever get an opportunity.
Lunda. Shout out to you if you watch it, bro.
One of the best human beings in the NFL. Easily.
Man,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They love him in that room. I think
Yeah,
he's done
great.
a great job developing those guys, contrary to popular belief. I know everybody's out on Ferguson and all that stuff, but I think he's done a great job developing tight ends. Ferg,
Yeah, he's a great dude, man.
Was developed. Brevis Span-Foreign is being developed. And as much as this, I've heard special teams guys talk about how great Bones is as a man and things like that. I heard the same things about Lunda.
Nice,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Law name dropping. That's his close friend, and I believe it because everybody loves Law Nation.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Let me make sure we don't have any supers.
I think
we have
so.
one.
Small. No, Smalls. That's a good question. She said, "Does Lunda or he? I'm sorry, if it's he. Lunda Wells leaves, do we get a comp pick? Only if he became a head coach, if I'm not mistaken.
If he become a head coach, well, we gonna hey,
That's cool. All right, guys. We
Hey,
will see
if
you
he
guys.
leave, he'll be
Oh, look at my African American over here.
We got it in. We talking about Lunda. Hey, Lunda.
He give us those comparisons. If he get a head coaching job, man.
Look at my African American over there. He is
Yeah.
great.
Make sure you see that to
Don't cut
Lunda
out the
next time.
internet.
you
He
see
did
him.
say he was great.
I mean, it's a great show, man.
Hey, great
Okay.
show. Love you
Yeah.
guys. We will see you guys next
Episode
week.
Noah Brown, baby.
I think Wednesday,
Hey.
but I don't know for sure.
I'll take Kevin Ogletree.
Ogletree.
Peace, y'all.